Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. Thanks to Kojiko TV, Community Channel 23, also known as Your TV. This is our opportunity to delve into what matters to Oakville. And today, being part of Black History Month, February, we're meeting with Andrew Tyrrell, the president of the Canadian Caribbean Cultural Association of Halton. And I put in an extra C there, so please forgive me, Andrew.
No problem. Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton.
I just threw culture in. You know why? Because in your programming for this month, I noticed
Yes.
a whole bunch of food-related events, and that made me realize that food is culture. And you know, we all, when we try different cuisines, we get to sort of imagine ourselves being in that culture that produced that food. And
Well,
I once heard that every 7 years your body renews, you know, that your cells are replacing themselves all the time. And and it takes about 7 years to replace your cells, which means we are what we eat.
well, thank you for having me here, Mayor Burton. And you're quite correct. We have one of our events that has taken off like wildfire is called Sizzling Halton. Sizzling Halton is a cooking show that we have produced. And that production, two of those episodes, we have 6, 2 of those episodes are going to be in the schools for Black History Month. They're in the Catholic board, they're in the public board, as well as they're in the independent schools. And what that is, it's a chef who is cooking Black and Caribbean cuisine, and at the same time, talking about how culture plays a role in society, how tradition plays a role in society, and really they're educating others about the Black culture. But also they teach children to be the bridge to other communities. And they also talk about the things that play when people try other people's cultures and try other people's foods. So that's really something that we're really proud of, that the school boards have really endorsed this year for Black History Month.
Well, people who know how heavy I got over the years know how much I love what I'll call food diplomacy. So, you know, if it's food, I'm trying it. Let's start off with a quick explanation of something that I see all the time. We have a growing population. Maybe the fastest growing section might be Chinese, but our Black population is growing very noticeably. And these are people often almost straight from Africa, rather than Africa to the Caribbean to you know, Canada. And so I want to, and I am always explaining to them. They come to me with surprise when they learn that there's a Black organization that's almost 50 years old, and they go, well, how can that be? We just got here. And I go, well, you're not the first. In fact, one of my favorite aspects of the founding of Oakville, our founding story, is that 3 groups of pioneer settlers came together to create a vision of a community with harmony and prosperity. And I say that we're still pushing that. And those 3 groups were the indigenous who summered on the mouth of, you know, the harbor of the 14-Mile Creek and the 16-Mile Creek. And those are treaty lands that we occupy today, thanks to their permission. And white settlers and Black settlers. In that period, before the Ontario legislature recognized us as a community in 1857, for 30 or 40 years, people were coming here seeking a place to create a new way of living. And so they're always kind of surprised that there's a Black root to, you know, there's an indigenous white and Black root to the original founding of Oakville. So I disremember, is it 48 years? I mean, how old is CCAH?
So CCH started in 1977, so it's in its 43rd year of operation. And you're quite correct, is that we have, as you can see behind me, the foundations and the underpinnings of all of our events, all of our programs, and everything that we do as we move forward as an organization: community, culture, education, and harmony. And I've had many conversations with those new Canadians, and I have welcomed them into the Canadian Crewmate Association of Halton. And I've explained to them that, yes, our foundation is more in the Caribbean route, simply because in the late 1950s, early 1960s, the Canadian government had a permanent residency program where domestic women came from the islands, and if they stayed and worked for a family as a nanny or simply to help that family along, that they would get permanent residency, which they did, and then they sponsored their family. So a lot of immigration happened in, obviously, as when you were talking about, prior to the abolition of slavery, where people were fleeing slavery in the States, and Oakville was one of the Underground Railroad ports of entry. But also too, there are women who served as domestics that came to Canada, and subsequently their families. So that is how we have a large part of the Caribbean history. But now we have new Canadians who come from African continents, and we say, look, first and foremost, it's Canadian. Before it's Caribbean, it's Canadian. So we welcome you. And we welcome all Canadians. It doesn't have to be Black Canadians. We have a number of programs where the other demographics and the other nationalities actually outnumber the Black children. So for example, in our youth leadership workshops, those other, as Jesse Jackson used to say, Rainbow Coalition outnumbers just the Blacks. So we embrace community. So everybody is welcome. There isn't any Black specialty that needs to be there for membership, or even if you're not a member, to be involved in our programs.
Yeah, and on that same note, there's lots of other ways to participate in our community. I've been very happy to see some of our new Black residents joining the neighborhood association and becoming active even on the boards of the neighbor or residents associations, as we sometimes say. RA is the new jargon for residents association. And we've got, my goodness, Oakville is very unusual in that way. We have them all over town. I have a monthly meeting of the leaders of our residents associations and other community groups. There's like almost 24 at that thing. So
well, you'll see that if you go on to cch.ca, there's a listing of, and then there's BHM 2021, or if you land on our landing page, you could easily get to the Black History Month listings. But you'll see that there is a documentary that we produced last year called Legacy Voices. And our theme for this Black History Month is Our Legacy Guides Our Future. But the Legacy Voices documentary, which is award-winning, is a permanent installation in Oakville Museum's offerings. And if you take a look at that 15-minute video, you'll see that it is seniors who immigrated to Canada, and they talk about their neighbors and molding with their neighbors and feeling that sense of community when they initially arrived and they thought that it would be something different. So surely they encountered racism and they talk about that. But the things that got me about that documentary is that those people embrace their communities, and they talk about other immigrants that they met in their community, Irish and Scottish and Spanish and from all other places, and how they all gelled. And first and foremost, they thanked Canada for allowing them the opportunity to come here so they can build a better future for themselves and for the future generations. And first and foremost, they identify as Canadian and proud Canadians.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very proud of the degree of engagement with each other that our community has. I've been all over the world and all over Canada, and I have never seen a community as engaged with itself as Oakville is. Just the sheer number of associations and groups and organizations that we put together in our town in order to you know, work and play together to make the town a better place. It's phenomenal. So that happens at a neighborhood level and also on a crosstown level. But then those groups also make alliances and seek common cause and work together. It's extraordinary. And I think it's what makes the difference and what makes Oakville such a special place to live. Actually two-time Prime Minister of Britain, Sir Robert Peel, actually is responsible for a bit of a program or a philosophy around community engagement. He laid down in his principles of community policing when he was Home Secretary that community engagement is the essence of what's required in order to have a strong community and a strong nation. So when we do these things and get together and work together and play together, we actually are creating the strong community and keeping it strong. You have, I think, the most active program for this month that I remember in all my time here, and I'm coming on to 30 years. Where are you getting the energy? Actually, instead of telling me where you're getting the energy, let's run through the things that you're doing so that people can pick one or two out as pleases them to participate.
Well, I'll tell you that I'm very proud of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton and all of the board members and volunteers that have poured into the Black History Month, because we've really pivoted and transformed this Black History Month program. I just want to get back to a point that you mentioned about the engagement of our community, and I can tell you that that is really what we're trying to do. And we use Black History Month and the excitement around Black History Month as a jump-off point to continuing these types of conversations for the rest of the year. I have this mantra that we're not only Black in February. So I use Black History Month as a start for people who are new to Oakville or new to even understanding and appreciating the rich history that the Black people have in Oakville. And I wish to continue those conversations. But to your point, I'll just give you a quick rundown of some of the exciting programs that we have. I don't have time to mention all of them, but some highlights. First of all, I tell you that, as you know, Sheridan is a center of excellence here in Oakville, and for that matter, around the world. And what we've done is we've engaged those students, because those students simply just parachute into Oakville, and we want them to have an experience of not just living in residence and staying on campus. We want them to have an experience of what Oakville really has to offer. So we have sponsored a prize for spoken word and multimedia projects at Sheridan College. So you can view those if you just go to the Sheridan College website. As you know, we have this No One Goes Hungry program. That is the initiative of Chef Milani Bastians that Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton has really poured into. So we have that, where we have No One Goes Hungry in Oakville on a Saturday, where we distribute 200 meals delivered to the community. We have a No One Goes Hungry because we're Halton based, we have a No One Goes Hungry in Milton, where together with the chef and the volunteers, that we distribute 350 meals there. And now we've gone into Acton and Georgetown, where we have No One Goes Hungry in Acton and Georgetown on a Thursday, where we distribute 200 meals into the community. We're partnering, as I said, with Sheridan College, and on February the 10th, we're excited to have Desmond Cole, who I'm sure that you know is a celebrated author of the book, The Skin That We're In. So he's going to be talking from 1 till 2:30. We have a moderated panel session about endorsing the Black family and assisting them with challenges. And that's going to be on February the 17th. We have a national broadcast all across Canada on Wednesday, February the 24th. It's a celebrated author who is a New York Times best-selling author. Her name is Ajumo Alua, and she has a book that's called So You Want to Talk About Race. And she will be our special guest for an hour, and she'll be reading excerpts of her book, as well as she'll be taking questions and answers. And I could tell you most of the Halton high schools have already registered for that event. We have an event on February the 17th that is called Clef Notes to Canvas, that we've partnered with the Milton Public Library, but it's for all the residents of Halton. And simply what you do is you walk into the Milton Public Library, you get your paints, you get your canvas, and then you go home, you set up your easel, and at 1 o'clock you log in, and there's an art facilitator, and that art facilitator talks to you about the struggle and leads you through music and a series of poems and spoken word in order to assist you to provide or to put onto the canvas all of those feelings of the struggle. And then you set that aside, and then there is another canvas that's called the Power. And that canvas, also there's different kind of music, different kind of spoken word. And when you finish with that painting, then you look at the two and you compare and contrast. So those are some of the highlights, I believe. There's another book. One of our board members, Alicia Sullivan, is involved with a book called 21 Resilient Women. And they're all women who have bounced back from adversity. And that's going to be on February the 18th. On February the 23rd, we have a screening at Sheridan. It's called Hero, the life and times of Aldrich Cross, who's a Trinidadian that did some extraordinary things and came to the Americas and became a celebrated politician. And then we have our No One Goes Hungry program at different intervals where we're embracing African-themed food and Caribbean-themed food. So there's a lot that's going on in the schools. Specifically, we have steel pan demonstrations, we have race workshops for them, we have jazz and blues performances for the schools, in addition to, as I said, the chefs going in and having that Sizzling Halton episodes and the chefs presenting and taking questions and answers from the students afterwards.
So that's going to keep you running, it seems to me, night and day. How do you get people? I mean, you've got a very active and large board. Do you tell them how active you are before you get people on the board, or do you spring that on them after they join the board? Like, how do you manage?
I spring that on them afterwards. I give them a little bit of insight into what the expectations are, and then once they sign up, then boom, they get it.
And how do people get on your board? If someone watching today is inspired by all that you've just said and would like to join, you know, I like to say that the warmest welcome in Oakville is for a willing pair of hands when there's work to be done. So how do you get on?
Well, you can send me a message, Andrew at ccah.ca, And I will give you some of the information relating to being on the board. And there's certain intervals in the year that we do hold open elections and nominations. But the board, as you might well predict, is a working board. Although we deal with issues of governance and strategic direction and all of that, we ask them to roll up their sleeves and start serving meals. We also asked them to do a little bit of fundraising. As you know, last year we gave $25,000 to the Oakville Hospital Foundation to support their child and maternal care wing. And this year, last year, we announced a campaign for another $25,000 to support their diabetes program and the compassionate care program within that diabetes program that gives mostly seniors who are having financial struggles some assistance with buying their diagnostic tools that they need to monitor their diabetes. So we're doing quite a lot, and it's community-based, but always, always, always community, culture, education, and harmony. As we're evaluating to get into programs and start new events, that's the underpinnings of everything that we do.
Well, the everything you do part is impressive enough, but the underpinnings are principles for the ages. It seems to me every group could embrace the principles. What kind of now we have a bunch of opportunities for groups to work together and to make common cause. What sort of alliances have you built up over the years?
Well, there's a number of groups in the Burlington area and up in Halton. There's a lot of new Canadians who come from the African nations who we've liaised with. And also in Halton, there's a number of new groups that have sprouted up. And I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with each and every one of them. In the summer, what I did is we had a social housing program where we went in and we talked to those people. We started out by inviting them for a free meal, and those are really relationships that I was able to forge to assist them in a number of different issues that they had that I didn't know was something that I could help them with, and I found out that I could, and B, that they were struggling with. So it's with engaging the politicians. And what I will have to say is that you, Mayor, have been very good in your time and in answering my emails and affecting change whenever I ask you to, but also to the MPP, Stephen Crawford, as well as our lovely Member of Parliament, Anita Anand, and Pam DeMoss have been extremely helpful in getting resources to assist people who are affected and who are vulnerable. And we already know that in this pandemic, those are the people that are most susceptible to issues.
Well, on that note about you mentioned the housing folks. As a kind of a new chapter in my political career, I've just become a member of the board of the Halton Community Housing Corporation. I spent the first couple of years as being mayor. About 15 years ago, I was on that board for a year or two, and I'm very interested to see how things have changed over those over the years since then. I'm looking to reach out into the community for allies to make sure that our housing corporation provides the best possible service. So I mentioned.
Well, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. But also, too, I would add that we're undergoing a research project right now with Sheridan College about belonging, and in that we're eliciting focus groups from social housing complexes, as well as different African and Canadian and Caribbean groups, Indigenous groups as well. So If there's ever an opportunity for me to sit at that table on the board for the Social Housing Corporation of Hamilton, of Halton, I would love to do that.
Oh, well, that was me inviting you to join the work party, and I'm sure that we'll work together well, because I remember fondly working with you so well when we were both on the Halton Police Board. I mean,
Yes.
you were there for 6 years. Pretty sure you welcomed me there when I got there. So
Yeah, I was there for 9 years actually.
wow. So there you go. You broke all the records. Normally, I don't think they let people stay that long.
Yeah, I was there for the 8 years. You're quite correct. I was there for the 8 years, and then they called me back for a little bit more.
Yeah, I barely got to stay that long. So anyway, I think that'll be fun. I look forward to that. So given that this is our first COVID Black History Month, what's your take on pre and post? I mean, frankly, I think you're doing more during the pandemic than was possible when we were out and about more. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would say that for Black History Month, we're doing the same. We've learned how to pivot. Black History Month 2020, we had 44 events, and we're looking at having upwards of 40 plus again this year. So I would say that we've learned quite well to transform and pivot to the virtual platform, and hopefully we will see what those numbers are, and how much that we've engaged the community with events that inspire and excite them and motivate them. But from what I've heard so far, we're doing a good job.
Well, the most outstanding thing about the thing that leaps out at me is there's only 28 days in February. So,
Yes, so there's days that we're doing multiple events in the afternoon, in the mid-afternoon, and in the evening. Yes, you're right.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all that information with us. And thank you for joining us today on Oakville Matters. Hope to see you next time.